So, you want to join the Coast Guard? Well, if you're getting ready to take the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, or ASVAB, and need to understand how it's scored and what it means for your career, you're in the right place. There are actually a few different scores for this one test, so stick with me and I'll explain it all. Welcome to the U.S. Military Test Prep channel by Study.com. My name is Corey, I'm a Seaborne Specialist in the U.S. Army Reserve and an ASVAB test prep expert. In today's video, I'm going to cover everything you need to know about understanding your scores on the ASVAB if you're looking to enlist in the United States Coast Guard. I'll also explain how those numbers translate into your job in the Coast Guard. Let's get started by breaking down the scoring system and how you can find the best rating for you. The ASVAB has 9 or 10 subtests depending on if you're taking the paper or computerized version. These subtests check on your knowledge in different areas like general science, arithmetic reasoning, word knowledge, paragraph comprehension, and mathematics knowledge. The other areas are electronics information, auto and shop information, mechanical comprehension, and assembling objects. You'll get a standard score for each of the subtests. So, what is a standard score? It's basically how you stack up against other people your age, specifically 18 to 23 years old in the US. The average score is 50, and the system is built around that. 50 is your baseline, and a 10-point difference shows how above or below average you are. So a 60 is above average and a 40 is below average. Higher scores show off your strengths in certain areas, which can be a game changer for landing specific jobs in the Coast Guard. You'll also get a percentile rank, which shows how your performance compares to others. For example, a percentile rank of 75 means you scored better than 75% of test takers. In the Coast Guard, certain roles may require you to be in a higher percentile, which could affect your eligibility for specific positions. Here's where it gets a bit more customized. The military uses composite scores, also known as line scores, to figure out what jobs you're best suited for. These scores come from combining your standard scores in related areas. Each branch of the military does have its own way of calculating these because different roles require different skills. The Coast Guard will add together your standard scores in different combinations for different jobs. If the sum of your scores is equal to or greater than the minimum required score, you may be eligible for the job. For example, if you're looking into a mechanical job like machinery technician, your scores in arithmetic reasoning, auto and shop knowledge, and mechanical comprehension could help determine if you're a good fit. On the other hand, roles in operations, like operations specialist, rely more on math knowledge and arithmetic reasoning scores to see if you're suited for the job. Be sure to do some research on what combination of subtest scores the Coast Guard job you're aiming for requires. Then you can really hone in on the subtests you might want to spend some extra time prepping for. Now that we've covered how composite scores determine eligibility for specific Coast Guard roles, let's look at the Armed Forces Qualifying Test, or AFQT Score, which is essential for qualifying to enlist. Your AFQT score might be the most important score as it decides whether you can enlist at all. Each branch sets its own minimum score, so you have to clear that bar to move forward. The AFQT comes from a combination of your scores on 4 key subtests. These subtests include arithmetic reasoning, which has basic math word problems, and mathematics knowledge, which includes a variety of math concepts. The other 2 subtests are word knowledge, which tests vocabulary and word meanings, and paragraph comprehension, which measures just how well you can understand written materials. Your AFQT score is a percentile ranking, meaning if you score 60, you did better than 60% of standard test takers. But each military branch does have its own standard. The Coast Guard's minimum AFQT score is 36. Let's take a closer look at the minimum AFQT score you need if you want to enlist in the Coast Guard. You need a high school diploma or GED to qualify for any branch of the military except the Navy. You can enlist in the Navy without a high school diploma or GED if your AFQT score is at least 50. For those with a high school diploma or GED, the required score varies based on which one you have. If you've passed the GED exam, you'll need to aim for a score of at least 50 for all other branches. If you want to enlist in the Coast Guard and have a high school diploma, you'll need at least a 36. If you want to enlist in the Navy, you'll need at least a 35. You need a minimum score of 31 for the Air Force, Army, and Marine Corps. If your AFQT score is higher than minimum, that's amazing. This opens up additional job options, potentially more career growth, and maybe even some bonuses. So how should you actually interpret your scores? Well, here's the deal. If you're getting low scores in certain areas, it doesn't mean you can't join the Coast Guard. It just means that your options may be a little bit limited when it comes to certain jobs. For example, if your score on the electronics information subtest is low, a role as a technician might be a bit of a stretch, but you can still qualify for plenty of other roles. Make sure you review the score requirements for the specific job you're aiming for. Meeting with a Coast Guard recruiter could also be very helpful. They can help walk you through the score requirements for different job options, help you understand what you're qualified for, and give you tips on how to improve if you need to. And if your AFQT score isn't at least a 36, don't worry too much. You can always retake the ASVAB. You'll need to wait 30 days before your first 2 retakes, and after that, it's a 6-month wait if you want to try again. So make sure to use that time to your advantage. Interpreting your scores really comes down to 2 questions. Are you eligible, and what specific jobs are you interested in? If you have a goal in mind, it's easier to make sense of your results and set a game plan. Look at your ASVAB scores and identify your strengths. If you excel in the electronics section, you might want to explore aviation or engineering jobs. If math is your strong suit, a technical position like operations specialist or information systems technician could be a really good fit. For example, someone with high electronics scores might qualify for an avionics electrical technician job, while a strong verbal expression score could lead to a role as a yeoman or public affairs specialist. Be sure to consider your interests. Do you like working with your hands? Well, you might enjoy being a damage controlman, where you'll handle welding, firefighting, and emergency ship repairs. Prefer computers and cybersecurity? Information systems technician could be calling your name, offering work in network defense and communication security. If you love diving and underwater work, consider becoming a Coast Guard diver, specializing in underwater hull inspections and salvage operations. Let's talk about some steps you can take to improve your scores and better position yourself for the Coast Guard jobs you want. First, pinpoint weak areas. Look at which subtests brought your score down. Next, study smarter. Spend more time on the sections you struggled with, especially the ones involved in computing the minimum score for the job you are aiming for. Using good study resources can make a huge difference. Study.com's ASVAB test prep resources can help with personalized plans and practice tests to get you on track. In fact, 92% of users pass the ASVAB after prepping with Study.com. Taking a practice test can zero in on what you know and what you don't. Watch lessons to review material you are less confident in, and if you feel like you know a topic well, do some practice problems and quiz yourself. If you notice you're missing a lot, you can always go back and review a lesson to make sure you know the material. A solid prep plan can always help boost your score. If you're prepping for the ASVAB, consider using Study.com's ASVAB study guide and test prep resources and zero in on what you know you need to study. And remember, even if you don't get the score for the role you wanted, there might be other military jobs that would be a good fit for you. The goal is to maximize your strengths. And that's the rundown on ASVAB scores for the Coast Guard and what they mean for your career. Whether you're just starting to study or already have some scores to interpret, understanding what these numbers mean can help you begin your military career with confidence and find the best job for you. If this video helped you out, give it a thumbs up, drop a comment with any questions or topics you want us to cover, and don't forget to subscribe for more US military test prep content. Stand by, stay frosty. I'll see you in the next one.